Great to see you folks. Super. What a treat for us today. A British Lion, for goodness sake. It's easy to stand here and go through statistics, etc. about John Rutherford, but I think most of us are of a certain age when we remember it wasn't so much the points he scored, but the way he scored. 42 caps for Scotland, 2 British Lions caps. But there were days which were fantastic at Murrayfield watching John play. 84, Grand Slam. I was just talking earlier, what he did to Dusty Hare that day should be. There's ladies present. No, but he just, and John was reminding me that England also had a huge lumbering pack, and by dint of the way they played the game, they just fatigued them, which was fantastic. And then, we all remember, 2 years later, 33-6. 33-6 against England. Sorry, Derek. At Murrayfield. And I was just trying to, I asked John, could you remember if that was still the day of the 4-point try? It makes the score even more fantastic when you think about it. And then this fantastic partnership for 35 caps with Roy Laidlaw. We won't forget those in a hurry. So John's going to speak to us, and then we'll have teas and coffees as usual, then a Q&A. But just a couple of bits of information for you. I really need to, just a quick word about Jerry Keating. Most of you will probably know Jerry has been huge in this club from the very, very beginning. He was part of myself and Bert Lawson when we started the Memories Group going at the nudging of Mary Stephen. And Jerry's not well at all, and he's had a major operation, open heart surgery, Wednesday of last week, and he's still in intensive care. And we'll keep you posted, but our thoughts, I'm sure, are with Jerry and his family, especially Una, as you know, his wife, has gone through chemotherapy as well as, troubles do not come singly like spies in the night, but in battalions. And they've certainly had their lot. And lastly, just a quick word, here's Ken. Ken, thank you so much for facilitating today through getting John to come. We're greatly obliged to you. Anyway, folks, John Rutherford.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for the invite. I came to watch Linlithgow play Broughton here last season. It was during COVID, and my godson was playing, and that's when I met Ken. And you had a fantastic setup outside, you had the barbecue on, but Ken reminded me I wasn't allowed into this room because it was strict COVID rules. So at last I got in. Yeah. And I never do any speaking nowadays. I did a lot when I stopped playing. But it's funny hearing these nice words. It was really, really kind of you. But it reminded me, I spoke once at Walkerburn Rugby Club, and I was the only speaker, and the president got up, and he said, "Well, please tell along John Rutherford today, and the rest of the evening is entertainment." So you know what you've got. But I want to start by telling you my last game for Scotland. And it was in the 1987 World Cup. It was the first World Cup in New Zealand. And to be honest, I did go out with a bit of a knee injury. And we played France in the first game, and it was always going to be a close game. It finished up in a draw, but I only lasted 6 minutes. And I don't know if you remember, France had this centre called Philippe Sella, and he was outstanding. He was really physical, and the ball was thrown over the back of the line out. We both challenged for it, and my knee just gave way, and I was stretchered off the pitch, first time in my life. So the way the protocols worked then was you were taken in to see a surgeon, the doctor. So he had hold of my knee and he's moving it up and down. I knew I was absolutely knackered, out the tour. So next thing I knew, I was being stretchered out to an ambulance. Right, so this is sort of 20 minutes into the game, and I was really gutted, I kind of knew that would end my rugby career. But the ambulance stopped, right, and the doors opened, and we were pitch side. And I was trying to see the score, because the game was going on, and so I was lying there, fully kitted out, and the ambulance man arrives, and it was a Scottish lad, and he was absolutely drunk, right, and he put the tartan hat on and the scarf, so, and he had fallen, and he had quite a badly cut head, so they brought him into the ambulance, and so I'm lying there, and he's sitting opposite me, and he said, "Have you been to the game as well then?" So, do you not think rugby's just like that? It brings you right back down to earth. So I brought a few things along today that I'd like to hand out. I've got some jerseys here, and what you'll notice right away is the difference between the kit that the modern players wear and stuff we had to. And believe me, when it rained, you put about a stone of weight on. And when you see the kit that the players wear now, actually we were talking about Ian Milne earlier, and the Bear was a huge man. And I don't think he would like that skin tight stuff that the players wear nowadays. But if I could just hand these out, this is the French international jersey, if you just hand it around. This jersey belongs to the best standoff I ever played against, a player called Mark Ella. Mark played for Australia, and he was Aborigine, and he was just a wonderful player. One of these, generally when you play international rugby, you can cheat a little bit. But when you played against players like Mark Ella, you just could not take your eye off him, or he was past you. So that was his jersey there. This is my favourite, the All Blacks. It was an absolute honour to play against the Blacks. I played against them, I think 5 times. Didn't beat them once. We got a draw. We probably should have beaten them that day. And I know they're going through a bad time at the moment with the World Cup coming up next year, but I would secretly go and put a bet on them. I think you'll get very good odds in the All Blacks, and I do think they'll come through. Wales was always a good battle, a really good battle. Wales in the 70s and 80s had some fantastic players. My first cap was against Wales, and it was people like J.P.R. Williams, Gareth Edwards, Phil Bennett. They were a wonderful team, and we actually lost in the last minute. But so that's a Welsh jersey. Where's our token Englishman? So the red rose here.
Don't drop it. So whose was this?
Do you know?
Sorry.
He played for Bedford. Just try. He was a decent player. Well, it wasn't Cuzzy, no. And that's, Scotland had a home and a away strip, so that's the white and the so it's mentioned that I played a lot of my career with Roy Laidlaw. Roy and I were not just close as players, we're very close personal friends. And he's actually suffering from dementia at the moment, but that's where the rugby community is just fantastic. I meet him, I have 9 holes with him every week. People like Finlay Calder, Keith Robertson, who all have turned about, got to see him. But we played a lot together, and we had a alliance tour together. But at the end of the career, we were approached by this publisher to write a book. And it was really, you know, Roy is he's an electrician from Jed. He's a man of few words. And we were offered Norman Mayer, who you guys will probably remember. He was the greatest Scottish sports writer of his time. So Norman, he had Roy and I along his house, and he was getting all the stories to write this book about us. So when the book arrived, it was like quotes from Shakespeare and Keats and all the stuff that Roy definitely would talk about. And we were invited along to BBC to promote the book. And live television can be absolutely horrendous, and you can just freeze. And so I was asked the first question. I can't even remember what it was, but I seemed to get through it. And then Roy was asked a question, and just nothing came out of it. So this is live television. He's going, well, it's and the guy's trying to help him through it. And he says, well, what did the book mean to you, Roy, writing the book? And he says, well, it's went on for about a minute. So he wrapped up the interview, and I turned around to Roy and I said, you know, what happened? He goes, I was just trying to say it certainly improved my vocabulary. So this is what you get when you play for the Lions. You get a beautiful card, and you're all given an individual number. So if I can just pass that round as well. And this year, you know, rugby's not like football. When you play for Scotland, you get one card, and that's it. you don't get any more, so you really sort of have to look after it. So that was my first card, and my only one. And probably my proudest achievement was in 1986, which was a good year for Scotland. That was the year you were talking about where we beat England pretty well. And Rutherford used to have a Golden Boot award for the best player in the world in that year. So I was fortunate enough to be awarded that. So that's the Golden Boot. Seriously, it's a proper boot dipped in gold, so nobody running off with that, right? So I'm very happy to take questions, but I understand the order is we're going to have a cup of tea or coffee, and then I'm very happy to answer any questions.
We might just start with a few questions first before we have coffee. Ken's got a question.
Yeah, you mentioned 2 or 3 players, John, that you really admired, Mark Ella and Philip Sella. Any other guys that come to mind, and any sort of incidents in games that come to mind with us?
Yeah. Well, I think the best player I ever played with for Scotland was David Leslie. David, he never got a Lions tour, but he really should have. And he was very dynamic, but he was also very dirty. And you know, every team needs the silent assassin. And David was ours. And I remember one game we were playing England. It was early in the career, and Jim Telford was the coach, and he invited myself and David Leslie and John Jeffrey up to his room. This was the night before the game, and they had a big guy called Lee Dooley, and he was a man mounted, and Jim had worked it out that if he could get to Wade Dooley early doors, he would explode, and that's what happened. But he wanted me in the first kick-off to land the ball on Wade Dooley, and David Leslie and John Jeffrey with the, in his words, kneecapping. So I was so psyched up that, and I was concentrating so hard on the kick, I actually kicked it too well. And you know, what you're trying to do is land the ball in the player when the forwards are arriving, but I kicked mine far too high. So David and John they just didn't bother, just went ploughing into it. We would do it before the ball arrived. Gave away a penalty, but it was an almighty punch-up at the start of the game. And the Scottish supporters, they just got on board with, they could see what we were trying to do to rile everyone. So it was like that the whole game, and Wade Dooley he should have been sent off. He couldn't cope with it. And these times the Scottish team had fantastic back rows. It was such a privilege for me. You know, you had both the Calders, Ian Paxton, Derek White, John Jeffrey, Derek Turnbull. You know, it was an era where we just shoved down world-class back rows, but we never produced any big men. So we had to play this game that was very loose. And I think our supporters really enjoyed that because we couldn't take teams on up front, so we had to move the ball quickly and get the ball in behind opposition. And, you know, it's something I'd love to see our current team doing instead. You know, like the modern game, this getting up to 20 phases. I don't know what you guys are like, but it does nothing for me. You know, you gain 15 yards and, you know, the crowd are bored stiff. But I'm not saying that the game in the 70s and 80s was better, because there's parts of today's game that are much, much better. But I would like us to go back to a rucking, quick game that can surprise teams.
Right, folks, any more questions? Brad?
What's your take on Gregor Townsend leading out Finn Russell?
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that he is probably, Gregor himself and Finn are probably the best number 10s we've had for a long, long time. And certainly don't produce number 10s.
Yeah.
It seems strange to leave them out the squad.
Right. Well, I kind of do know what's happened, but without giving me too much information, there's no question that Finn is definitely in the top 3 standoffs in Scotland, if not the best. But I think he can be quite disruptive, and a coach has to make a decision on, you know, do you leave someone out and have players who maybe aren't quite as good. So, in my view, you know, I would always have Finn Russell in the squad, but I'm not his coach, and I don't know if any of you guys have coached or worked with teams in the past. You have to have harmony, you know. Maybe Finn's maybe not the team man he should be, but the times I've met him, he's been very nice, and he's a hell of a nice guy. But I don't know Finn the coach, and so who knows? I suspect he'll be back for the Six Nations. I don't think we could win the Six Nations without him. So hope that helps.
Right, folks, I have one more before we have some coffee, please. One more question.
What's the best location that you've played?
Well, the loudest was Twickenham. Start the game at Twickenham's electric. I've never heard noise like that. But I love playing in Paris because it was always good weather, and I loved the hard grounds. It kind of suited the Scotland team at that time, and it's a unique atmosphere. It's a bit like a football crowd, you know, they boo you. But I did like playing in France, but no question the loudest was Twickenham.
Okay.